Hello, welcome to Rough Cut Film Review. This is a review of Oz, the Great and the Powerful, which I saw in 3D. So, The Wizard of Oz came out in 1939, I think it was. It's largely considered to be a classic by both, pretentious film types, such as myself, and the general public, Jenny general public, and Billy box office, normal people with normal names. So, to come up with a new film in this sort of universe now seems like a very strange thing to do. The world's very cynical these days, post 9/11. I don't know what's going on, but there we are. It's particularly, on the face of it, it seems particularly strange to give this to Sam Raimi. He's the guy that, of course, made the Evil Dead films. But actually, he's a really good choice. He proved he can do big-budget stuff, big-budget spectacle with the Spider-Man trilogy. The last one was a bit of a mess, but crucially, it made a lot of money. He's a very clever man, and he loves his films, be it new films, old films, all kinds of films. He's got a really good grasp on classic cinema and their sensibilities. So, for me, it really doesn't feel like they're just cashing in, although they probably are. I'm really glad, actually, they didn't go the way of, hire Tim Burton, get his wife to be one of the witches, and then Tim Burton just makes the same film that he's been making time after time for the last 20 years. Sam Raimi, really good choice. So, here we go with the plot then. So, a character called Oz is a handsome travelling magician who is initially presented as a sleazy con man. He charms his way into the hearts and beds of many a beautiful women by presenting them with a music box with a incredibly fictitious story about his grandmother. He's visiting Kansas on a fair, at a fair, one of those old-fashioned fairs. He's performing, but really isn't very good. Before we know it, due to his choices, his love of the ladies, his deceit to the ladies, he's in a hot air balloon hurtling into a tornado, and suddenly he is transported to Oz, the place Oz. So Oz goes to Oz, not the prison Oz in that excellent HBO series. The first person he meets turns out to be a witch, played by Mila Kunis. Before we know what's happening, really, we see some colourful stuff. It all looks very impressive. Oz has collected a handful of lovable losers as he begins his quest to assassinate the evil witch and take his place as ruler of the place Oz, so Oz, ruler of Oz, for the huge financial windfall of gold and treasure that one of the other witches, played by a very skinnier than I remember Rachel Weisz, is going to bestow upon him. So off they go down the yellow brick road. The first thing to say about the film really is this is old-fashioned storytelling, old-fashioned directing, old-fashioned sensibilities. And I know that some people have been a little bit sniffy about that. I think it's absolutely to be applauded. I think it would have been all too easy to do a postmodern ironic take on The Wizard of Oz. It's, came out in 1939. It's a classic. It's been parodied so many times in popular culture, in all manner of things. It would have been really easy to take a cheap swipe at it, but Raimi hasn't done that at all. He's tried to build on what's already there. You could probably argue that this is a very similar story to the original Wizard of Oz. However, I'd say that I don't really care. I really enjoyed it. So we've got James Franco and his lovable losers. We've got a flying monkey who's voiced by Zach Braff, rather. We've got a porcelain doll, a little girl who's made of porcelain, who Oz gets out some super glue and glues her back together and sort of saves her, but her family have been killed. And it just absolutely charmed me. It really did. It's almost naive in its sensibilities, but I really applaud Raimi for doing that. The whole thing looks great. I saw it in 3D. It's one of the better uses of 3D I've seen. However, to be honest, I would much have preferred to see it in 2D and then not had the light loss from the silly glasses. It really looks gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous, and I love the old-fashioned way that it's directed and shot. Big open scenes of Oz. Due to the 3D glasses, unfortunately, quite a lot of the time, particularly in the opening shots when we get to Oz, the 3D effect meant that I couldn't focus my eyes on the background detail, which I'm sure was lovely until they sort of 3D-ified it. So in 2D, I bet that all looks great. I'm looking forward to seeing it on Blu-ray again. I think it was really well played. I mean, I've seen reviews where they say James Franco was miscast as Oz. I couldn't disagree more. I thought he was excellent. I did think, however, that Mila Kunis's performance as one of the witches was flat in the first 2 acts. Without giving too much away, I understand the reasoning behind it. However, I would have liked to see her a bit more, of a three-dimensional character. She is very quiet and stated and initially, and I understand why they do it, but I wish they hadn't. The plot and the story don't necessarily make perfect sense, but this is an old-fashioned family-style adventure. I've got no problem with some loose ends or things that don't make 100% sense. That's fine because I enjoyed it, and I went along with it. One of the things I did think actually was, as I was watching it, it wasn't really until the third act that we get a sense that Oz is a living, breathing world. Until then, we bumped into characters, but there wasn't a sense of this bustling place, or that it might actually be a real universe. A bit of a strange accusation to throw against it, but I enjoyed it so much. To be honest, I'm really picking around for faults. The film's long, but I enjoyed it. As I said, I didn't have a problem with that. I really like spending time with the characters, and I really like spending time in Oz. So for me, it was a treat to sit there for that long, but I can appreciate that if you don't go along with it, and maybe on another, similar films, I don't go along with them, and then crikey, your bottom starts to ache after that length of time sitting in the cinema. Not everyone's going to like it. The plot is silly, it's preposterous stuff, the twists aren't disguised perhaps as well as they should be, but as I've said, it's an old-fashioned family adventure film at heart, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I'm just really impressed with the craft that's gone into this film. Keep an eye out for Bruce Campbell, who is, of course, the star of the Evil Dead films. So, I mean, all in all, really, really well done, Sam Raimi. And actually, just mentioning the Evil Dead there, I can't wait. There's a remake of the Evil Dead, and that'll be, now bear in mind, that'll be the third version of that film that's existed, because 2 was a remake of 1. And I believe there's a 4th film in the works as well, which can't be too far off now. I actually went to see the Evil Dead trilogy fairly recently, probably about 12 months ago, in the wonderful Prince of Wales cinema, just the 3 films back to back, and I was sitting right in the front row, and I absolutely loved it. They're the sorts of films that I used to have really battered VHS copies of, for years and years and years, and by all accounts, the new ones are really good. Actually, what struck me, and I'm going completely off point now, what really struck me seeing the trilogy back to back was the fact that the first one was a lot better than I remember it to be, a lot more interesting, and the second one wasn't as good as I remembered it to be. I was a bit disappointed with the second one, and the third one was silly fun, which I always thought, even though that lots of people criticised it. Anyway, Oz the Great and the Powerful, I really liked it, and that's all I have to say about that. Kind regards, Christopher Thomas.